A dead fish collector is a simple tool for catching dead fish. Fitted and operated correctly, the use of a dead fish collector entails a small risk of damage to the net. Egersund Net has extensive experience with the production of dead fish collectors and can produce different varieties as needed. A dead fish collector consists of netting mounted on a single or double steel ring. The steel ring or steel rings form the frame for mounting the netting and lifting straps or ropes. A handling rope can be mounted on the inside between the top and bottom of the dead fish collector. The handling rope reduces the load on the netting in the dead fish collector. When using a double steel ring, straps or ropes are attached to the inner steel ring. This avoids chafing on the net as a result of contact. Steel rings can be supplied with a zinc anode if required. A dead fish collector rope is attached to the bottom and the top of the dead fish collector. The rope is used to lower or raise the dead fish collector. In some dead fish collectors, a bottom ring forms an attachment point for dead fish collector ropes. The illustrations show examples of dead fish collectors with the designations ENDB, ENDD, and ENDDB. ENDB, dead fish collector with a simple steel ring and with bottom ring. ENDD, dead fish collector with a double steel ring and without a bottom ring. ENDDB, dead fish collector with a double steel ring and with a bottom ring. The size of the dead fish collector is indicated by numbers. For example, ENDDB 150. 150 means that the steel ring has a diameter of 150 centimeters. The dead fish collector is mounted in the net either with internal dead fish collector rope or with continuous dead fish collector rope. The dead fish collector rope inside the net is pulled through a ring at the bottom of the net, while continuous dead fish collector rope is pulled through a ring at the bottom of the net and attached to a weight. Certified dead fish collectors have their own requirements for documentation and marking. To obtain certification, the dead fish collector must be checked and approved in accordance with the supplier's guidelines. Among other things, it is required that all registered information about the dead fish collector is archived. On a certified dead fish collector from Egersund Net, the identification mark is mounted on the steel ring. The ID mark must contain the following information: type designation, diameter, date of production, production number. Provided that use, control and inspections are in accordance with Egersund's guidelines, a dead fish collector is certified for a period of up to 24 months. Only personnel from Egersund Net or personnel approved by Egersund Net have the authority to carry out controls and inspections. When checking a dead fish collector, the decision on new approval or disposal shall be considered on the basis of corrosion, damage and cracks. Corrosion and damage as a result of impact can be difficult to detect, and it is required that only personnel with training and experience can carry out inspections. On ordinary dead fish collectors, an ID mark is attached with a production number in the crane loop. When discarded, dead fish collectors can be delivered to one of Egersund Net's service departments. Dead fish collectors are usually delivered packed on a pallet, but they can also be placed on top of nets. The dead fish collector should be stored so that it is not subject to corrosion or wear and tear, preferably dry and protected from direct sunlight. The following procedure is used when installing dead fish collectors with internal dead fish collector ropes. The dead fish collector rope is usually already threaded through the net, from the top rope through the ring in the centre bottom and up again to the top rope. The centre of the dead fish collector rope is marked. Dead fish collectors and other necessary equipment are prepared on a workboat. Equipment that can get in the way is removed. It is important to have adequate distance between the ropes going up and ropes going down to avoid tangling and knots. This can be done by threading the dead fish collector rope through rings mounted on the pen. The distance between the rings depends on the size and design of the net. Attach the dead fish collector rope to the pen before mounting the dead fish collector. The dead fish collector rope is then attached to the bottom of the net and the top. Then loosen the dead fish collector rope that holds the dead fish collector at the surface. The net should then be lowered in a controlled manner by keeping moderate tension on the rope. When the dead fish collector is in place in the centre bottom of the net, it is pulled up a little by the dead fish collector rope that is attached to the top of the net. In this way, the net is turned upside down. Any dead fish will then fall out to the side and up into the net when it is lowered again. The first time the dead fish collector is to be turned, it is a good idea for the fish farmer to use a camera or ROV to find the best solution. They can then see how much the net should be lifted to make the fish fall to the side. Once they have found the desired position, the dead fish collector rope can be marked so that they know how high the dead fish collector should be lifted each time it is handled. They can also monitor how long the net must be inverted before it is lowered again. The dead fish collector rope is then attached to the pen and the dead fish collector should now be ready for use. There should be enough slack on the dead fish collector rope so that it can easily be connected to traction or lifting equipment, e.g. a winch or cam. When removing dead fish, the dead fish collector rope is connected to traction or lifting equipment. The dead fish collector is raised in a controlled manner. When the dead fish collector is in the surface position, dead fish are removed using a hand net. Be aware of the risk of escape. If the dead fish collector is hoisted out of the cage for emptying on a boat, an escape prevention net between the boat and the cage should be used. For HSE reasons, dead fish operations should be carried out by at least 2 operators. The following procedure is used when installing the dead fish collector with a continuous dead fish collector rope. The dead fish collector rope is usually already fully threaded in the net, from the top rope through the ring in the centre bottom and on the outside up to the top rope. The centre of the dead fish collector rope is marked. The dead fish collector, weights and weight rope are prepared on a workboat before installation. Equipment that can get in the way is removed. It is important that all ropes are long enough. The design of the weights and the material they are made of must not be able to cause damage if they come into contact with the net. The outer end of the dead fish collector rope and the weight rope are attached to the weight. The inner part of the handling rope is attached to the boat or pen. The weight is then lowered in a controlled manner on the outside of the net by means of weight ropes and lifting equipment, e.g. winch or cam. The weight must be so deep that it does not come into contact with the net when the dead fish collector is pulled up to the surface during dead fish operations. If the distance between the weight and the bottom of the net is too short, there is a risk of wear and tear. Use lifting equipment to pull the inner rope until the centre of the dead fish collector rope comes to the surface. The centre is marked. The weight should now hang under the bottom of the dead fish collector. The next step is to attach the inner part of the dead fish collector rope to the boat or the pen with a locking rope. This should prevent the weight from falling back down. Then cut the rope at the top of the locking rope. The dead fish collector can now be attached. One end of the dead fish collector rope is attached to the bottom and one to the top of the net. When the dead fish collector is attached, the locking rope can be removed and the net is lowered down to the centre bottom. It is recommended that the bottom of the dead fish collector is unfolded and that folds are avoided. The weight ensures that the dead fish collector is kept in place during operation. Finally, fasten the dead fish collector rope and the weight rope to the pen. The weight rope is only used when lowering or raising weights. During daily operation, the dead fish collector is raised to the surface using a winch or a cam. When the dead fish collector is lifted, a fold will form in the tip of the net. Any dead fish lying in the centre will then fall out to the sides. When the dead fish collector is lowered to the bottom, dead fish must fall into the net. When the dead fish collector is raised, it is emptied with a hand net. It is important to be aware of the danger of escape. If the dead fish collector is hoisted out of the cage for emptying on a boat, an escape prevention net between the boat and the cage should be used. For HSE reasons, dead fish operations should be carried out by at least 2 operators. Provided that control and inspection have been carried out in accordance with Erguson's guidelines, the validity period for certified dead fish collectors is up to 24 months. However, the user of the equipment is responsible for the correct use of the equipment and for implementing measures in the event of suspected faults or weaknesses in the equipment. Dead fish collectors must only be handled by personnel who have received training. Irregularities in connection with the handling of dead fish collectors will lead to a pause in dead fish operations until the situation has been clarified and any errors have been rectified. Raising and lowering dead fish collectors can increase the load on parts of the net construction. Dead fish collectors must therefore be raised and lowered in a controlled manner. When raising dead fish collectors with weights, mechanical lifting equipment is required. The use of equipment with high traction increases the risk of obscuring faults and may lead to the application of excess loads on the net construction. The use of mechanical equipment must be risk assessed. One measure may be to use equipment with limited traction or a crane with a mounted line hauler to control traction. Local conditions and weather must also be included in a risk assessment. In the event of a strong current, the operator must be aware of the forces applied to the individual components. It is unwise to winch a dead fish collector rope via a powerful crane or cam from a workboat in high waves. Workboats and pens that move out of step can cause large jerks that exceed the equipment's load capacity. Raising the dead fish collector downstream will reduce load. If a dead fish collector rope breaks, the cause must be identified. A new rope must have the same load capacity and length as the rope being replaced. If the ring on the dead fish collector is damaged and deformed, it must be discarded. Deformation of steel causes weakening that can lead to tearing in the net. When using dead fish collector ropes inside the net, ropes and other objects can get wedged between the ring at the bottom of the net and the weight rope, making passage through the ring impossible. Raised dead fish collector ropes can pose a danger to operators. If the dead fish collector suddenly falls back into the sea, the operator can become entangled in the dead fish collector rope and be pulled overboard. Instead of gathering ropes on a pen or in a workboat, the dead fish collector rope can lie in the sea so that minimal rope gathers on a ring or boat deck. Alternatively, the rope can be coiled in a bucket before it is released again. When storing, dead fish collectors should be stored dry and protected from direct sunlight. Regular inspections and checks must be carried out. It is also recommended that the user prepares checklists for the dead fish collector that are part of the fish farmer's regular inspection of the facility as well as after severe storms or unforeseen events that may have damaged the dead fish collector. The following items should be included in the checklist. Location of the dead fish collector, i.e., avoid the collector lying to the side instead of the centre of the net. Raise the dead fish collector to make sure that it does not get caught in the net and tear holes in the netting. Check the steel ring every time the collector is raised for emptying. Keep an eye out for corrosion. Check netting in the dead fish collector. Repair damages and holes where necessary. Check ropes, knots and straps on the net. When using internally mounted dead fish collectors, the ring at the bottom of the net must be checked for wear, deformation and placement.